welcome back to Rating the List, where we review, discuss, and reimagine popular movie lists objectively. We're your hosts, I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad, and on this episode we'll be exploring number 31 from AFI's 100 Years, 100 Passions, the 100 Greatest Love Stories of All Time.
All right, number 31 is The King and I, released in 1956, directed by Walter Lang, starring Yul Brynner and Deborah Kerr.
The synopsis for this movie musical is as follows. In 1862, widowed Anna Leonowens, played by Deborah Kerr, is contracted to teach the children of King Mongkut of Siam, played by Yul Brynner. She travels to Bangkok with her son, Louis. Once there, she learns the house she was promised is not available. She threatens to return home, but relents because she's fallen in love with the children. Anna and the king begin to fall in love despite their differences, though neither is willing to admit it. After his newest wife translates Uncle Tom's Cabin into a Siamese ballet that criticizes the king becomes enraged. The wife and her lover are caught escaping. The king is about to whip his insolent wife when Anna intervenes. She once again threatens to leave, but stays when she learns the king has fallen sick. After a few weeks, the king passes.
Okay, so I want to start this off by talking about what I do like about the movie. Okay? So, what I do like about the movie, the costume design is top-notch.
Yes.
Very good costumes, beautiful colors. A big contrast is everyone from Siam is in these bright, beautiful, bold colors.
A lot of reds, which is...
A lot of reds.
That's pretty common in... Siam is modern day... Thailand, so... red is a prominent color there.
And
so
then
there's a lot of deep reds, purples that you see on screen.
Orange. But in a contrast is Anna's dresses are beautiful, but they're very mute. They're white, they're blues, they're light, they're muted colors.
They're singular colors too.
Yeah, more reserved, if you will. Set design is really beautiful as well.
Yeah.
You get this sense of this ginormous castle and all the beautiful design and decorations they have in there.
Yeah, you feel like you're in a palace. It's very ornate. There's a lot of it's spacious. There are a lot of decorations. You get the feeling of being kind of surrounded by opulence.
And I think that this was probably filmed mostly on a stage.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I think it was a stage play.
Yes.
Originally?
Yeah, it's originally a stage play.
Okay. The choreography is really great. Even though the play within the play is a little...
it's a little over the top.
The choreography of it is really good. The dance sequence with the king and Anna is really good. So that's kind of nice. The score of the movie is really good. They have some really good musical numbers, like Getting to Know You and Shall We Dance are very, very memorable.
And everyone knows them. They may not know that they're from this movie, but I guarantee you people know them.
And I mean, I started singing one word for word. I was like, whoa. And that's because another good thing about this movie is it's very nostalgic to me because my mom loves this movie. So I kind of grew up on it. But, watching it with, 47-year-old eyes. Yeah. So let's get to the bad stuff.
Well, the biggest thing for me, I discussed this after we finished watching it, it makes, to me, the cardinal sin of a musical, it's boring.
Yeah, so when they're not dancing, when they're not singing, it's a very dry, boring story.
Yeah.
They do have this underlying story of his newest wife who's in love with the guy that brought her there.
Right.
But they just kind of leave it out there. And
they cast Rita Moreno in the part and don't do anything with her.
Nothing.
She's like, they really didn't need to put her in the part.
No, they did not. She didn't even dance. She didn't dance. Did she have a musical number? I think she did. I think she had one. Yeah.
Kind of, but Then they also do the other thing, which I absolutely despise in these movies, is Deborah Kerr is dubbed over.
Yeah,
She's
so
not-
it's
she
a
doesn't-
different.
she doesn't-
I forgot to write her name down.
She doesn't do the singing. Like, why do you cast someone in a movie musical if they can't sing?
And I think that was just like the way it was, because it was so, during this time it was so actor driven, the movies, that
It's.
they had to get somebody in.
But I
that-
mean, like
it's stupid, but
like I was saying, like there are plenty of actresses
Mhm.
who could pull off that role and be able to sing it. It's no, nothing against Deborah Kerr, but
Yeah.
if you can't sing, you shouldn't be cast in a musical. It makes no sense.
It doesn't. So the story alone is a little boring. Like, the side story is not cohesive, which we just talked about.
There's not enough of the main story for me either. And
Yeah.
and honestly, there's not enough to make the king likable. I
Yeah.
don't really like the king.
No, I mean, it's Yul Brynner being as charismatic as he is, which I'm drawn to.
But again, that's my whole thing, is
Mhm.
using really charismatic, likable actors to portray kind of shitty characters.
Yeah.
Like this guy, he's got
slaves and like 100
Yeah,
wives.
he's got slaves. He's got all these wives, 67 kids.
Mhm.
I mean, they make a joke out of, like some of the wives are not in, in standing right now. So he's not talking to them or the kids. And it's just like, he's just like not a
Yeah.
likable dude. And it's just like, we're supposed to buy into the fact that, Anna is supposed to fall in love with this guy. And it's like, to me, like, how can you? It's like,
Yeah.
even if you did, you're competing with like 100 different women. Like, where do you
Yeah.
where do you stand in that kind of relationship?
And then there were a lot of Asian characters or Asian people in this movie.
Especially all the children.
All the children, for the most part, were Asian. I don't know what Asian countries they came from, but
Right.
they were Asian.
Yeah. Probably not all of them were Thai.
Probably not. But I have to say that the main characters in the movie were not.
Right. Like Yul Brynner is Russian.
Yeah.
Rita Moreno is Hispanic.
Yeah, Deborah Carr. I don't know.
Deborah Kerr is playing a white person.
Yes, that's true.
So that's fine.
That's
I
fine.
mean, she's playing that character.
But yeah, there was a lot of brown face going on.
Yes.
And it's really distracting to me.
It's especially distracting for me in that time period because you have all the Technicolor stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it really shows up.
Yeah, it's really obvious.
Yeah.
It's really, yeah.
Like probably the worst one is when John Wayne is playing Genghis Khan.
Oh yeah,
That's so
bad.
That one's really, really bad.
That's really bad.
But there's a lot of those kinds of things that take place during that time period because the fashion of of the film really made that kind of stuff stand out.
Yeah, so it was kind of hard for me to rate this with representation, just because there were a big Asian cast.
Yeah.
But the main parts were in brownface, so it was like,
The one thing
it's hard.
I think the one thing I did appreciate was they kind of tried to. I don't know that they really fully succeeded, but they kind of tried to put the noble savage trope on its side by, showing that the king is learned, he understands the Western world, he kind of wants to modernize his society to some extent, which is, it's kind of ironic. He's got this, autocracy and 1,000 wives, but he wants to educate his children in, Western, philosophy, English, mathematics, all that kind of stuff. But so he's kind of trying to have it both ways, living partially in the old world that is Siam, but also bringing Siam into the modern world. So
Yeah.
That part's kind of interesting, but I mean, like I said, the biggest problem with this movie is it's just boring. The love story is boring. It's really not all that present. I was more invested in the side love story than I am in the main love story.
Right, which was just kind of left
which is
out there.
Which honestly isn't much of a love story per se. It's
No.
more of an infatuation on both sides, because you never get to realize it because he just like up and dies.
Yeah, he's like Padme and just dies of a broken heart, basically.
Yeah, and
Just weird.
That's the other. He's so dramatic.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, dude, you're like a teenage girl.
Yeah. So then in the middle of this whole thing, there's this play that Rita Moreno's character is supposed to have made.
Right.
It's based on the story of Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Right.
So you could just imagine
It's a
what kind of shit show that was.
yeah, and to be fair, it's kind of supposed to be a little misrepresented. Like, she doesn't fully because she's not American, and she really isn't.
Well, she parallels.
She does.
She parallels it to what's going on. She
parallels
with this man
it to
she's in
what's
love with.
happening
Yeah.
there, but she doesn't understand the context of American slavery, even though she's a slave herself. So I don't think she quite understands, because she doesn't understand the history. She doesn't quite do that, so she almost writes it as a little bit allegorically, which is kind of interesting, but I don't think the filmmakers earned the right to do that, especially in 1956.
Not only that, like, it was done also, like, with, you know, blackface masks.
Yeah.
And
they skirted the blackface line pretty much.
Yeah. It was, but it's apparent that that's what they were doing. And so it's just like, it's so funny because every time we watch one of these older movies, I'm like, okay, like, we're going to get through this movie without some racial thing in here. And boom, here we have Uncle Tom's Cabin's play.
Yeah.
And
this is going to be a theme with an upcoming episode as well.
Oh my God. It's insane. But, you know, it's really hard. You know, I was thinking about this because it's like, these movies are of the time.
Right.
Right? And as ugly as it is, we kind of have to own up to it.
Yeah, you do, but part of being critical about film is not just giving things a free pass.
Right. No, I'm not.
Some things you have to, you know, talk about in the time period that they were, but then there are things that weren't okay then either.
No.
They might have been accepted, but they weren't okay. Like, blackface has never been okay. Doesn't matter when you do it.
No, it's terrible.
Cultural misrepresentation
Yeah.
has never been okay, regardless of when it happened. So you can still call out that stuff. And I'm very much of the opinion that you don't just give a classic, quote unquote classic movie a pass just because it's an older movie. You have to review movies over time. It's a piece of art, and that, you know, your interpretation of that art changes over time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, for a lot of these older movies, they simply don't hold up to, you know, a modern audience that is more cosmopolitan, that's more learned. It just doesn't play out. On this one, I gave it a 55. Jerry gave it a 52. The list score is 53.5.
Yeah. So, if you would like to let us know what you think about this movie, please do so in the comments. If you would like to contact us directly, please contact us at ratinglist@gmail.com. I think that's it. That was The King and I, number 31. And that's it. I'm Jerry.
I'm Brad.
And we'll see you next time. We're rating the list.
Bye.
Bye.